Hello, everybody. My name is Octail, and I'm a nobody, and I'm here to talk to you today about why just about everybody is wrong about Fallout 76. Before we get started, I'm going to take just a second to describe what my experience with the Fallout games are, and then give you a little context about how I play my Bethesda games. So, I have played Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas, and then on the non-Fallout Bethesda side, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. One thing I will say is that Fallout New Vegas was my least favorite of the Fallout games, and I always play my Bethesda games without mods. The only exception to that is the GNR More Where That Came From mod for Fallout 3, which did not change graphics or gameplay, but added about 80 to 100 new songs to the radio playlist that you would get in Fallout 3, and it would also prevent Three Dog from talking as often as he did, so you'd get a little bit of a break between times when Three Dog is chastising you for leaving Brian Wilkes in a box. Now, don't get me wrong, you cannot like Fallout 76. You can go on your YouTube channel, write an article for a website or a gaming magazine, and say you don't like it. You can in fact say you don't like it so much that you're actively telling your friends to not buy it. But there's a huge difference between saying that a game is something that you don't like and saying that the game is objectively bad. I can tell you from experience, I just dinged level 40, Fallout 76 is not dark and light. Fallout 76 is not broken by any stretch of the imagination. Does it have problems? Yes, absolutely. And here are a couple of examples. This is a tire swing that's not attached to anything. It's just out there in the universe. What we're going to see here is a group of mobs that spawn in a tent. Now, I can effectively use VATS to kill a couple of them while the mobs are still stuck in the tent, but eventually they break loose and chase after me and have no problem getting into melee range to start beating me about the head and shoulders, whilst I'm thinning them out and switching weapons and generally making a mess of the combat, but I'm not in any sort of threat to die simply because of the level difference between myself and the mobs. So there's a dual problem here. Part of the problem is that all of the mobs spawn together in a tight little cluster, and then the second problem is that the spawn point of the mobs and the location of the tent or whatever that the mobs are supposed to spawn close to don't know about each other, so you end up with this situation where this group of mobs ends up spawning inside of a tent. That's really bad. Those things need to get fixed. But those two things do not a game make. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about design. What you're looking at right now is a map of the Fallout 76 world, which, by the way, is enormous. Which is awesome because it gives you more of what Fallout is, which is running around the world, exploring things, shooting guys in the face, scrapping junk, making new stuff, to go out and explore more places, to shoot more guys in the face, to break down more junk, to build more stuff, and so on and so on and so on. But look at the right half of this map. You can see a 65 level spread in the Cranberry Bog, a 70 level spread for mobs in the Mire, and an 85 level spread for mobs in the Savage Divide. And the Savage Divide is a third of the map that cuts right down the middle. If I make it to level 30 and I want to go to the Mire, I have to go through the Savage Divide. And the question is, well, why should I go through the Savage Divide? And that's part of the problem with design that nobody is talking about. The fact that I have to traverse this area where I may run into things 60 levels over my level while I'm trying to get to the area that I want to be questing in. For example, the Mire. So I think the fix to this is either to subdivide the Savage Divide a little bit more and add some tighter level caps. Maybe there's a 45 to 99 area of the Savage Divide and I don't know, 25 to 45 area of the Savage Divide. I just know that when I'm running through the Savage Divide, I truly never feel safe, and not because of the environment and not because of anything that's happening mechanically in the game, other than the fact that a level 80 player may have gone through the world right before I got there, and so level 68 Scorched are going to spawn, and when I'm level 20, I can't handle a level 68 Scorched by myself. So now that we've talked about some of the bad things that exist in the world of Fallout 76, let's go into some of the common criticisms. And the first common criticism is graphics. This is a tree. It has two main functions for existing in the world of Fallout 76. Number one, as an obstruction to break line of sight between you and anybody or anything else that might be in the world. That might be looking at you at any given moment. And then number two, aesthetics or flavor for the world. This is rural West Virginia, and rural West Virginia has trees in it. So from the perspective of its function, it does not matter if the tree is represented as a 2D sprite in 16-bit color or if it's represented in 3D at 16K resolution. As long as it breaks line of sight between you and mobs, or you and players, or you and other items in the environment, and provides the idea that you're inside West Virginia in some way, it does not matter what it looks like. The second common criticism that I've heard is about NPCs and the story. Now, the Fallout universe does not have very many interesting NPCs in it up to this point. If we take a look at Fallout 3, there are maybe 6. A321, the antagonist as a part of the Superhuman Gambit, Harold in Oasis, President Eden once, maybe twice, based on the way you design your character that opens up some different dialogue options when you get to that point, Roy Phillips and Tenpenny Tower, and Elder Lyons in the story of the DC chapter of the Brotherhood of Steel. Beyond that, most of the NPCs in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 are interesting only once, and in general, they're annoying. Moira Brown comes to mind. She is not an interesting NPC. You could execute her, except for the fact that she gives a really great early game quest in Fallout 3 with a lot of experience points and some pretty good rewards. This similar is true in Fallout 4 with the companions. None of the companions are interesting to me. I played a all charisma, all luck character in Fallout 4 and was annoyed by the fact that I either have to take Kate the Junkie or Nick Valentine with me in order to be able to hack terminals or pick locks, which usually resulted in me going to a location, finding a door that I couldn't open, determining whether or not I needed lockpick or terminal hacking in order to open it, go back to my settlement, pick up the correct annoying NPC, go back to the place where I was originally going to, use them to pick one lock or open one terminal, and then go back to the settlement to drop them off because I'm not going to listen to them talk, and then finish running the rest of the place. Lather, rinse, repeat for 60 hours. And it's not fun, and it's not interesting. The narrative decisions in Fallout 76, on the other hand, I think are bold. The story of Fallout 76 starts with the Overseer violating the rules of Vault-Tec and the rules set out in Fallout 76 to begin with. As you follow the Overseer's story, you end up finding these little bits of human moments. And here's a perfect example. This is Camp McClintock, and it's a completely robot-run boot camp for military people. Now, the Overseer stopped by McClintock at some point and left an Overseer's log. And inside that Overseer's log is a real human element where in this devastated world for which nuclear apocalypse was the least worst thing to happen to it, more on that in a second, the Overseer stops to have a discussion as to which one of her titles is more important. Is she Overseer Private or is she Private Overseer? And to me, that is a bit of human brevity in this environment where only terrible things have happened for years. And the Overseer is out trying to rebuild America. She's out hours ahead of you as the player character. But it turns out there is no America to rebuild, at least in rural West Virginia, because of all the terrible things that have happened in rural West Virginia subsequent to the bombs dropping. I think, if anything, the story of Fallout 76 deserves a little bit of criticism in as much as the story writers tried to ask too many what-if questions relative to the world we find ourselves in Fallout 76. What if the nuclear apocalypse is the least worst thing to have happened to rural West Virginia? What if there are events that transpire in the years between the time that Vault 76 was sealed and Vault 76 is opened that even Vault Tech could not anticipate? What if, as you emerge as one of the best and brightest set to rebuild America, you get out of Vault 76 and make it into rural West Virginia, only to find out as time goes on that the situation is in fact hopeless? And what do you do at that point? Do you collect as much data as possible and then try to find a pocket of civilization, which seems like what a person would do for real? What I do know is that the story in Fallout 76 thus far has resulted in a greater number of legitimately human moments. I'll refer to the Order of Mystery storyline and the way that quest line finishes out. I'll refer to the logs in the Overseer's caches and visiting the places that the Overseer visited in a different order than the Overseer, so that you as a fresh-faced, level 10 character run across an Overseer's log where the Overseer is despondent because everybody is dead and there are only enemies everywhere, and the only way to survive is to scrounge around for items and put things together with duct tape and sweat and try to survive literally as best as you can in this overtly hostile environment. So I think the strength of the narrative is something that should be looked at as overall a strength for the game relative to Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, which have the storylines that are interesting the first time you run through them and have interesting lore in areas, but they're not necessarily on the beaten path or on the route that you take in the main storyline, and may only be interesting once. So to wrap up, I just want to reiterate again, it's totally okay to not like a game. If Fallout is not your jam, that's totally fine. Red Dead Redemption is not my jam. To me, it just felt like Grand Theft Auto in the Old West. I played Red Dead Redemption 1, not enough to finish it. I probably won't play Red Dead Redemption 2, regardless of the fact that everybody is gushing over it, because I've already played that game. I didn't finish Grand Theft Auto 5 because, to me, the gameplay all feels the same to me. And once you've played Grand Theft Auto in modern times and then Grand Theft Auto in 80s and 90s era, when you make the switch back to modern times, like I've done that already. So I totally understand if Fallout's not your jam, or if you were expecting Fallout 5, you will not like Fallout 76, and that's okay. Fallout 76 is not as bad as everybody is saying it is. And I have to take a small detour and say I am only looking at the game itself. I am not looking at the crappy business practices surrounding the special editions with the vinyl bag versus the high-quality cloth bag, I guess, that people were supposed to get, but then ended up getting a vinyl bag, and now they've only gotten 500 atoms as the I'm sorry for getting a terrible pack-in instead of a pack-in that would be functional and cool. So I'm not really talking about that. That's a terrible business practice, and that sits kind of on its own. But Fallout 76 as a Fallout game is scratching the Fallout itch. I played Fallout 3 and really liked it. I played Fallout 4 and really liked it. I am playing Fallout 76, and with the design flaw, that I talked about earlier with level ranges in mind, I am having fun. It's a little annoying when you walk into a place that you need for the main storyline and you walk into people that are 30 level, or bad guys that are 30 levels higher than you. But outside of that, Fallout 76 is a perfectly functional Fallout game, at least in my experience. I have not had problems with the disconnects that are being reported. I have not had the big graphical stuttering and twitches that others have reported. I'm not seeing those things. I don't doubt that those things are happening, and your mileage may vary. We have to be clear about that, but for my money, I'm having a great time with Fallout 76, and it's going to be one of those games that I end up paying pennies per hour to have played. So, thanks everybody for listening to this poorly constructed video. My name is Octale, and I'm a nobody.